And we are live in a living color from Denville Scimitar Studios in Denville, New Jersey. You're listening live to the Open Mic program here on Blog Talk Radio, as well as the Sports Talk Nation on the YouTube channel. So, folks, welcome aboard, everybody, to this program today of Open Mic. And we got a great show for you today, as we are on the last Friday before the All-Star break. And as we sit here, as we head into the All-Star break, it's pretty clear of who has been the best team in baseball. And in case you've been under a rock, we all know who that is, and that is indeed the Houston Astros at 58-28. The Houston Astros have a 15.5-game lead over their closest competition in the AL West. That is the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And if you go broader than that, you take a look at the entire American League, the closest competitor to what the Astros have done so far this year is the Boston Red Sox. But Boston, in case you're wondering, 9 back as far as the best record in the American League is concerned. And Houston, by virtue of a loss by the Dodgers the other night, right now have a half-game lead for the best record in baseball. So it's been a tremendous first half for the Houston Astros, and we will be talking about that through this show here today. Joining us is a very special guest. He talks Houston Astros on Sports Talk 790. He also writes for Fansided, and that is Eric Huysman. Eric, how are you doing? Glad to have you back on the program.
All right, thanks for having me back. Yeah, it's after years of losing, it's great to kind of have a winning product in Houston again.
It really is, man. I mean, the Houston Astros have just had a phenomenal season this year. I mean, what has this been like for you? You know, you had this great opportunity. We spoke in spring training about the opportunity you had a chance to do some shows on 790 talking about this Houston Astros team. How special has it been for you and your co-host to have this opportunity this year?
Well, we kind of joined 790 at the right time, right where the Astros are starting to win. We've done a couple of live broadcasts at Minute Maid Park, and we're set to do another one pretty soon. And there's a lot of excitement. It used to be on weeknights. A lot of people would not come, but now it's not a sellout, but there's people coming even when the A's are in town, even when the Angels are in town, so teams that nobody really cares about.
Is it comparable to what Houston saw in 2005 when they went to a World Series, and even 2004 when they were in the NLCS, and even before that in the late 90s when they had a little bit of a surge? Is it comparable to that, or is it even different? Is it different than what it was back in those days?
I think the 2005 team, they had the pitching rotation, but I don't think too many people thought they had enough offense to carry them. This Astros team is kind of the opposite way. When we started season, everybody's like, yeah, these guys are going to score a lot of runs, they're going to hit a lot of homers, they're not going to strike out as much because they brought in the Carlos Beltrans, the Brian McCanns, the Josh Reddicks. But I think that people were kind of not so sure about the pitching. And the pitching, even with all the injuries the Astros have had, they've kind of they've done better than they should have done. And now with a lot of the people coming back from injuries, I think Colin McChugh is probably about 2 more starts from coming back. Charlie Morton is pitching tonight, and then Dallas Kuechel, they're taking it really, really, really slow with him because they want to make sure that he's healthy for the rest of the season. But I think there's more excitement about the pitching staff in 2005. But this year, I think the offense is we've never had something like this in Houston.
Yeah, I mean, they're just on a tremendous pace. I mean, I looking at the stats over the last couple of days, you know, team hitting 287 as a group, on base percentage of 352 as a team. I mean, these are some of the top records in the league. I mean, they lead the league in most categories. If not, they're certainly near the top. I mean, it's just been an unbelievable year offensively for this team. And you look at the power. I think that's the one thing that stands out with this team. They have, as I'm just counting right now, just doing another quick count here, 8 guys at 10 home runs or more. And, of course, George Springer with the 25 home runs this year. But it's just amazing how they're able to have so much balance as far as power is concerned in this lineup. Now, does the ballpark play a role in that? Yeah, it does. But at the same time, it's just such a tremendous lineup up and down this team, for this Astro team. A lot of talent.
Yeah, I think in the past years, everybody has kind of relied on Altuve to drive in the runs, or Springer. Then when Correa came up, so the top of the lineup was good last year, and it just, when you got to 6, 7, 8, 9, or just 7, 8, 9, it would be like automatic outs last year, and that's what held the 2016 team back, because they just they didn't have that power that that we do have this year. But now you look at 7, 8, 9, and they're top in baseball, just with their batting average, with their powers. I think I don't have it in front of me, but I think we're leading the league in homers from the 9-hole, and it's just, there's so much that it's hard to understand how having such a deep lineup will affect you, because no matter where Reddick's batting, if he's batting second, first, or third, he's kind of been a catalyst. I mean, the team was good at the beginning of the season, but it just seemed to take off once Reddick started really, really hitting, and when Correa started really hitting. But this team, going into the playoffs, it's going to maybe take a Kershaw or a Scherzer to stop this offense.
You know, I'm going to bring up so let's talk about some individual players, because I want to talk about a little bit later on about the mentality for the team moving forward, especially with such a big lead. But when I look at some of the individual performances, let's just go right at George Springer right now with the 25 home runs this season, 55 RBIs. He's going to go to the All-Star game. Had a 4-hit game against Atlanta the other day, 3 hits the day after that. I mean, this guy has just been on fire in the American League, and for this Astros team in the middle of this order, he's certainly well on his way to blowing up all of his best personal statistics that he's had in years past. His best home run year was just last year, 29 home runs. He's certainly on his way to hitting close to 40 if this keeps up. What has been the difference for him this season?
Just the people behind him in batting order.
Yeah.
And he's leading off, and not even just the people behind him, people in front of him, because he has 55 runs batting leading off the game. And you're not going to find too many of those players around the league. And I just think that what we were talking about earlier with the 7, 8, and 9 hitters, they've kind of made Springer just even more confident, and he's striking out a lot less. When he first came up, he was like striking out a lot, but now he's kind of settled down. He's found his swing, and he doesn't when he first came up, he was a little bit too hyper, too excited. But he's able to have fun while playing the game, and I think it's what Springer and Correa can do. They kind of gear the personality of this team. And without those two, it wouldn't be as exciting. Let me just say that.
I mean, he has just had a tremendous year. I mean, the guy provides the power. Not only that, but he gets on base. He hits consistently. He's right now riding as I see here, a 5-game hitting streak. So he's just been a tremendous asset. And you mentioned the guys at the top. Carlos Correa, guys like Jose Altuve. My God, I mean, look at the season that Correa's had. And especially lately, he's right now hit safely in 21 of his last 22. He's now on a 14-game hitting streak. He's at 97 hits on the season, and if he has a big night tonight, he could get to 100 if he has 3 hits tonight. Just tremendous consistency at the top of the order with those two guys, Altuve and Correa.
Well, at the beginning of the year, Correa got off to such a great start coming off the World Baseball Classic, and then he just hit a wall, and he wasn't hitting. He kept on striking out and popping up, and there was a lot of worries there because this is our cleanup hitter. And there were some people calling into Talking Stros and saying, hey, Correa needs to be moved down in order. And we kept on saying, no, just be patient. He'll come around. And once he got confident again and he just found his swing, there's no stopping him. It doesn't matter if there's 1 out, 2 outs. Then that's what's something you got to love about this team is they score a lot of runs late in the game, and they also score a lot of runs with 2 outs. And that's really hard to do when there's just not much room for error. And it just seems like that's when Correa and Springer and Altuve just shine. It's just when it's crunch time, which leads me to believe that this team will be pretty good in playoffs.
You would think so. I mean, I think also the experience they had a couple years ago where they were in that ALDS against Kansas City, had a chance to win that series, did not. I mean, to build off of that experience as a young team, and they can use that going forward, and I think they're using it right now, in fact. And as they move along over the season, not only are we talking about competing against teams in their division still at this point in the year, but competing against teams like the Red Sox, competing against teams like the Yankees in head-to-head competition, second half of this year. These are games that they could circle on the calendar and say, hey, look, these are going to be like playoff games. These are games that give us a chance to test ourselves going forward. I mean, they even had that great series against Boston just a couple weeks ago where they played them very, very tough.
Yeah, we played Boston. We played Boston at the end of the season. I think it's the last 4 games of the season. So that would be very interesting because that could decide. I mean, I don't know if the Red Sox will be able to get that high, but that could decide who's got the best record in the AL. But I think we saw how the Yankees pushed us around in that Friday game where we had Nori Aoki pitching, and it just looked like the power has just switched back to the Yankees. But the Astros showed how resilient they were the next 2 days, and they showed that they can beat them. The only team that worries me that the Astros have struggled with this year is the Indians, because with that pitching rotation and that lineup, they're going to be into playoffs.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there because then against Cleveland 5-1 in those 6 games they've already played against them this year. They won the first game to Houston, and then lost the next 5. But one thing that is a common theme is that all those games have been fairly close. I mean, you take a look at each one; it's decided by about a run, maybe even 3 runs for that matter. So they've been within the margin of having that one big inning where they could turn it around.
Yeah, this. Like I said earlier, this lineup is just it doesn't give up. And even if they're down 5 runs in the 9th inning, they have to bring the opposing team has to bring their A game because the Astros just have a way of doing it late. They I've never seen a team that could just come back from so far down. Can they do it every day? No. Can we survive right now with our pitchers going 5 to 6 innings every game or less? No. That's why we need Kuechel back. That's why we need Charlie Morton back, and that's why you're probably going to see the Astros make a trade for Sonny Gray or Jose Quintana, or another name that came up today was Telrin from the Braves, but I just don't see how he fits what the Astros need. I think we have Mike Byers has shown that he could be better than Telrin this year. Even to Brad Peacock, even though he's going back to the bullpen, he's shown that he's a much better pitcher. So, but if they trade for Telrin, it's going to be because of his history, not necessarily what he's doing this year. Same thing with Garrett Cole. If they trade for Garrett Cole, but we need people to go deep in the games because the more we use our bullpen in July, the less we're going to be able to use them in October.
And I'm glad you brought that point up because as good as this team has been, one thing that I've noticed that's been a consistent issue so far for the Astros as far as starting pitching is concerned, other than just the obvious being the injuries to Dallas Keuchel, aside from that, is the fact that their pitchers haven't really gone deep. Lance McCullers, who has pitched well, ERA is just a little over 3, 7-2 record. He's a guy that I've noticed the pattern has been is he throws a lot of pitches and doesn't really last long in games. Sometimes he did have a start where he went 7 innings against Kansas City in June, but for the most part, he's a 5-6 inning pitcher, but he throws a ton of pitches. What have they been trying to do to try to get some of these starters? Also, Mike Fiers, another guy who's thrown a lot of pitches in a very short amount of innings in games this year. What have they been trying to do to get some of these starting pitchers to extend themselves a little more?
Well, I think what Buster Olney told me in an interview recently. He said that he thinks that the Astros manager, A.J. Hinch, and Jeff Luhnow just came in and said, hey, Charlie Morton, I want you to just last 5 innings, throw as hard as you can, and get as many outs, and then we'll let the bullpen go. They might have said the same thing to Mike Fiers. They might have said the same thing to Joe Musgrove. So the reason why they were able to do that was Brad Peacock and Chris Davinsky, who just made the All-Star team today. But those guys can go multiple innings. But with Peacock in rotation, they don't have that privilege. But with Lance, his stuff is so good that sometimes he's going to struggle with the strike zone. He's striking out 106 batters in 91 innings so far. So strikeout pitchers aren't going to throw a lot of pitches to begin with. What was curious the other day was when Mike Fiers threw 110 pitches in like 4 innings, and they had to take him out, and he didn't qualify for the win, even though he didn't give up any runs. He gave up a few hits, but it's just puzzling how the rotation kind of just can't last long. And I think maybe it could be a thing where Hinch is just saving them for later in the year, because because I remember they pulled McCullers one time at 86 pitches in the 6th inning, and he could have gone deeper. They did the same thing with Dallas Keuchel when he came back. They kept him at about 80 pitches. So I really think the Astros have built themselves a big enough lead where they can kind of just prepare for the postseason.
That's a possibility, but the one thing that would concern me, and I'm sure you brought this up on your show as well, would just be the innings on that bullpen. And you've just mentioned it, saying, with the ideas of some trade possibilities. Luke Gregerson already 37 games pitched. Michael Feliz 36 games he's pitched. Both of those guys are approaching 40 innings. Devansky's already over 50 innings pitched. This has to be something of a concern right now for the coaching staff of this Houston Astros team about some of the innings that these guys have thrown out of that bullpen. Yeah, you want to have your starters rested. You want to make sure they're able to pitch deep into the season, especially when you get to the playoffs, but you're going to need that bullpen, especially in late innings of games. We just had a World Series just last year where bullpen was pretty much the deciding factor of that World Series in a lot of ways. So you want to try to make sure you get your pitchers to go out there and extend themselves a little more, especially here in the dog days of the summer.
Yeah, I was just looking at the strikeouts per 9 innings, and it seems like a lot of our relievers are all above 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. So we have as opposite of our 2015 bullpen, we have a very high strikeout bullpen this year. So that also adds to the not just the innings, but how many pitches they're throwing per game. So, but yes, the Astros may have to go out there and trade, not for a closer, even though Ken Giles has blown a few saves. He still has a 3.45 ERA, which is much better than what he did last year. He looks more confident. It seems like some days, especially with Gregerson, and some days with Giles, they just don't look like their heads in the game, and it may be from overuse. And I know Tony Sipp is actually having a decent season just because they're not having to rely on him that much. It's just all the call-me-up guys that they've had to call up recently, like the Guduans and the Diazes and the Jankowskis and the Hoyts. They're what kind of is bringing the Astros bullpen down. But we may have to trade for a reliever because I'm really worried about these guys being healthy for the playoffs, and especially Gregerson. He just doesn't. I don't know. Some days he's on, some days he's just off.
That's just the way it is. There's a lot of guys like that in baseball, especially those veteran guys that've been around for a while. They're just kind of on and off.
Right.
But this market, it's going to be interesting to see what teams are going to do, because outside of the AL West and even the NL East for that matter, where both divisions are pretty much decided, all the other divisions are pretty tight. AL Central is very tight. AL East is very tight. So it makes you wonder, who's going to be available? Which teams still think they have a chance? We're almost at the halfway point of the month here, going into the All-Star break. Which teams still think they have something of a chance to even get a wild card? That's where the second wild card in a lot of ways kind of hurts teams like the Astros, teams like the Dodgers that know they're going to be in the postseason and feel they want to get that extra piece that they can go out there and trade for, like a reliever, maybe a middle of the order a starting pitcher, hitter, whatever it may be. It kind of changes a lot of things. So to me, I wonder what the market's going to look like in a couple of weeks here as we head towards the deadline, what the team like the Astros can do as far as getting some relief help if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, there's maybe the Pirates, Watson from the Pirates, I think that's his name, and there's Justin Wilson from the Tigers, I think, and also Brad Hand from the Padres could be. He just was named to the All-Star team, so Brad Hand could be another possibility. But I think if the Astros go out and get that top starter, I think they'll just go and get a middle-of-the-order bullpen guy. They're not going to go out, and they already paid a lot for the closer. I don't see them going out and get a Aroldis Chapman type player this year,
right?
Like the Cubs did last year. But that's really what kind of helped the Cubs win the World Series was getting Chapman. Who's out there like Chapman? Honestly, Davinsky. Davinsky can kind of become that top closer with his changeup, but he's too valuable in the high leverage situations in 6th inning and beyond. So, yeah, even with the starting pitching market, it's hard to really decide who's in and who's out because Toronto was supposed to be selling, but now they're on a 3-game winning streak and they're 5 games from 500. So, are they really going to try to trade? So it's really too soon to really know exactly who's going to be on the market and more specifically who will be buying. Because, the Yankees will be trying to go out there and outspend the Astros and try to get the players that the Astros are trying to go get.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting, not just the Yankees, but also, what the Red Sox are going to do, trying to, bolster their bullpen rotation. There's also the situation in the Central where you have all 3 of those teams there, the Royals, Indians, and Twins, all in the mix there for really basically 3 spots. I mean, you got the 2 wildcard spots in the division title, and they all feel they have a chance at it, so they're going to try and make some moves. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what pieces are going to be available in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll hear names like Addison Reed, who could be available from the Mets, Felipe Rivero, if he's out there maybe from the Pirates. He's had a tremendous year, for that matter. I don't know if the Pirates want to move him, but we'll see. But there are a lot of names out there that may start to float around here in the next couple of weeks. We'll see what happens. But one thing that the Astros have that's a benefit that a lot of teams wish they had is that they have guys that are coming back off the DL. You mentioned at the top, Dallas Keuchel coming back from the pinched nerve in his neck. He could come back this weekend, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He of course, with a 9-0 record, has had a tremendous year. So if we talk about a guy getting a length, well, there's one guy that can do it.
Yeah, I think what the Astros are going to do at the trade deadline will gauge on what can Colin McChugh offer, what can Dallas Keuchel offer, because McChugh he only lasted 1 inning in his first rehab start, and then he lasted 3 innings in his last one. So he's still in week 2 of spring training, so he's still a little bit away, but. If Colin McChugh can come back and be the 19-win Colin McChugh from 2015, then they may not need to go out there and trade for a starter. But in the playoff series, I don't want to see Mike Fiers. No matter how good he's been pitching recently, I don't want to see him there. Charlie Morton he had to be injured at least. Is his pitching. He's been pitching harder than he's ever pitched in his career. Is it going to be affected now that after this injury? And so there's so many ifs, ands, and buts about this. So that's why you hear a lot of talk about the Astros going out and getting pitchers. No, we're not going to go out there and get a 4th or 5th starter. We have that 3rd starter behind Kuechel and McCullers. But Kuechel, I'm surprised the Astros have held their heads above water so well without Kuechel, because Kuechel is he means so much to this team, the way the games and the way he can keep in, but ever since it went out, the offense has really, really answered. And so that's what the good thing is about this. And, heck, we have a utility player who should be on the All-Star team, and Marwin Gonzalez, and he's got 15 homers and batting .319 with a .993 OPS in 210 at-bats. And he's just a part-time get a start here, but he could have made the All-Star team, and he has 50 RBIs as a utility guy. So there's just this lineup. Not only that, but our AAA is stacked. So when Reddick went on DL, we had Derek Fisher come up, and he hit 2 homers in his first 5 games. So the Astros are loaded in offense. It's got to be what they can do on the pitching wise.
Yeah, exactly right. I agree with you. I mean, if they can get those 2 guys back, let's just say they get Kuechel and McChugh back, and you expect Kuechel to pick up from where he left off. McChugh will see what happens, but you bring those 2 guys back, and let's just say for the sake of argument, you have guys like Fires go back into the bullpen. Maybe he can help out in the bullpen. So it gives A.J. Hinch an opportunity to really mix and match when those guys come back, and maybe, as you just alluded to, does reduce that chance to say, hey, look, let's go out there and make a trade. Risk losing a prospect for a pitcher who may be here beyond this year, may not be. So it gives them that flexibility if they can make that happen, get those guys back.
Yeah, one thing I don't think you're going to see is them trade for a rental. Lunau has already said that they're looking out for somebody not only to help in 17, but they want somebody to help out through this whole window of winning, which is, I think, through 2019, which is when we have to start deciding what to do, because we're going to have a lot of players coming up for a lot of money, and it's going to start with Dallas Keuchel and Jose Altuve, and what they do there could decide what to Carlos Correa, then Springer. So it's just who they're going to have to decide where to spend their money, which is why I don't see them taking on money like Justin Verlander, because the Tigers have come out and said that they don't. They want your top prospects, and they want you to take all the money that he's owed. But I'm sure negotiation will change that. But I wrote recently that Justin Verlander could be compared to kind of what Randy Johnson did in 1998 for the Astros.
Could be. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Oh my goodness! Let alone what he did for the Astros, but also what he did for Arizona a couple years later. So, hey, look, you never know.
Right.
Just to get back on the offense here, just a little bit. In fact, this is kind of related to the pitching as well, and that's of course with the two catchers, Evan Gattis and Brian McCann. Both of them they've done a nice job splitting the time between these two guys. 52 games for Gattis, 56 games for McCann. Both have obviously produced pretty well so far this season. How do you think this platoon has worked for the Astros this year, especially from the pitching standpoint of having these guys call the game?
Well, Gattis and McCann have worked together before in Atlanta, because I think Gattis took over for McCann when he was out with injury, and then Gattis moved back out to outfield. But Gattis is a better catcher than people give him credit for. Does he miss some balls in the dirt? Yeah. Does he make some mistakes sometimes? Yeah. But but the biggest difference to the season, and Lance McCullers came out and said it the other day, was what McCann brings to the team. Not just with that, but just his knowledge of the pitchers, his ability to kind of navigate them through the game. And I had a little issue yesterday. That was a weird game versus the Blue Jays. It just seemed like McCullers and McCann were just having issues like communicating. But
I think we're. Yeah, I think we're here talking to Eric Huysman of Sports Talk 790 down in Houston. Eric, I think we may have lost you for a second. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
You can continue.
All right. Yeah, I was talking about McCann and Gaddis, but Gaddis has accepted that backup catcher. He has. He's not going to play every day as DH because we have Carlos Beltran. And Carlos Beltran is not doing exactly what we needed him to do, but he's doing more inside the clubhouse. He's kind of creating this winning culture here. And it's surprising to think about because he's only batting 231 is that he has 11 homers. He hit another homer last night. So the power is still there, but he's not a 290 hitter anymore. He's more of your 2015 Astro player. He's going to probably finish like 20-something homers, but Gaddis, he's accepted the fact that he's not going to play every day. He gives it his all, and that's the difference with this duo is they look alike. First of all, they basically they bat on one side, and they're switch hitters essentially. So, but it's a unique situation where you have two power hitters. And we have to remember that Gaddis, I think, hit 30-something homers last year. Let me look up real quick. But he had a lot of homers last year. Yeah, 32 homers last year. And he's only got 6 so far. So he's not used to not playing every day. But we don't need him to be that power guy anymore. We just need him to be the backup guy in occasional DH this year.
And you know what? I give a lot of credit to A.J. Hinch because that's all that's all about the manager right there, getting those two guys in his office when it started spring training, maybe even before that, and saying, hey, look, this is what our plan's going to be for this year. I need you guys to buy in, and they buy in. And look, obviously their experience together in Atlanta certainly helps make that possible. But you know what? It's very easy for Evan Gaddis or even Brian McCann to go out there and say, hey, look, I'm a starting catcher. I need to be the center of attention. I've led this team with 32 home runs last year. But no, they put the ego aside. I love that about what they've been able to do there at that position, especially. That's why I give a lot of credit to the manager, A.J. Hinch, in that regard. But also, think about this. Moving towards the end of the year and towards the playoffs, you have a situation now where you have basically two catchers that are pretty well rested from the standpoint that they haven't caught 120-plus games. So it does help in that regard, too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Gaddis. He's played 31 games at catcher and 17 games at DH. So, they're both going to be rested. And from what I remember last year, Gaddis was a great hitter towards the end of the season. And so he may be a late bloomer this year too. So, but that's the reason why we can absorb somebody like Bregman, who may not be having as good a season as we expected from him. But he's still hitting a lot of doubles, and I think he had his average up to 260 last I saw. So Bregman doesn't have to be Mr. Everything like he was last year, hitting second. Now he's the batting 8th and 9th, and he can get back into his swing because this offense is it's stacked. And people criticize the Reddick signing at the beginning of the year, but he's showing what he can do. And there was an argument you can make that he should be on the All-Star team, too. But I guess that's just Astros fans being greedy.
Hey, look, they have a lot of great players. I mean, Marwin Gonzalez, you brought up, tremendous year, 15 home runs, 50 RBIs. He probably should be in the All-Star team. 319 batting average. Maybe he, I know if someone bows out of it, not likely. I mean, at this point, but if someone did, that's someone that they should consider putting on the team.
Yeah, there's a big push in Houston to try to get him on the fan ballot, but write-in votes don't really work. I think I was talking to I was watching something on TV, and they said they talked to Astros coach this year, and they asked him who's the MVP, and you would expect them to say Correa, no Springer, no Altuve, and the two of the Astro coaches said Marwin Gonzalez. Just what he can do around the baseball diamond. He can play first, second, third, shortstop. He can play outfield. He doesn't just go out there and make mistakes and play. He's not just a person out there. He's actually great everywhere he plays. And so he has a 2.6 offensive overall WAR, but as a backup player. So when you have somebody like that, a super utility player, it makes everybody else better. Because if somebody's slumping, let's go ahead and give you a day off and put Marlin in.
Yeah, and to have that guy that can you just insert into the lineup, and that's again, the Astros have a lot of those guys. Carlos Beltran coming off can come off the bench in situations like that. Marwin Gonzalez. I mean, that's what makes this Astro team so loaded offensively, and what's going to make them really dangerous. Now, last thing we got to talk about here, just on the matchups with other teams in the league. You brought up Cleveland earlier, and we talked about how Houston did struggle against Cleveland. Right now, Cleveland's leading this division in the Central. Let's assume that they do get to the postseason, and I think they probably will, either as a wild card or a division champion. If they do match up in the playoffs, what do you think the Astros have to do differently against Cleveland this time around?
From what I remember, they're fairly close games, but it just seemed like the Cleveland pitching was just knew how to shut the Astros down. They knew how to get the Astros' pace. And I remember Clevenger had, I think, the game of his career versus the Astros. So it was, plus they played them when Altuve or Correa were out, or Springer. There's two of the two big stars who were out at the time where we went to Cleveland to play them. So that could be issue too. But I think if the Astros go out to get another big pitcher, it's really to address Cleveland, to kind of combat them.
Yeah, I agree. Cleveland just has a lot of good pitching, and they have a lot of good starting pitching for that matter. It's been kind of a weird year for Cleveland because I think in a lot of ways they've been somewhat disappointing. I think a lot of people thought they would kind of take off this year from building off of last year, but they haven't really done that. But their pitching is still too dangerous. When they get into the postseason, I don't think it's an if. When they get into the postseason, they'll be a favorite, obviously, to possibly quote unquote upend the Astros in their great start to this great season so far. But it'll be a great series if those two teams do meet. Really, any team Houston's going to meet, it's going to be a great series come playoff time. But really, I think the big question for me as we move into the second half for Houston, not just adding to getting their guys back off the disabled list, not just getting some answers about their bullpen moving forward, but also keeping the consistency going offensively. But, being so far ahead in the West, 15 and a half games ahead in the West, how does A.J. Hinch, and this is the biggest thing that he has to figure out as the manager with his coaching staff, how do you keep this team moving in the right direction and getting ready for the postseason with such a big lead in this division at this point?
Yeah, you don't want to shut them down and then they're not quite ready for playoffs, like we've seen several times in basketball, where the team, I think they sweep the team before, then they have to sit around for a while. So, but yeah, I think Hinch, I think everybody in the locker room has his back, and I think he motivates them to be better than who they are. And he's just not. He's a very good manager. He's a very good players manager, and I don't think this team has too much fun to get complacent down the stretch, if that's what you're trying to ask. I don't think they're gonna start going on big losing streaks because they all of a sudden forgot how to play. Yesterday was kind of an example of what you're thinking of, where it just seemed like the Astros weren't their heads weren't there. They weren't covering second base. They were just making bad plays, and it looked awkward last night. It was just one of those weird games, and I think the Astros just expected to go in there and to sweep the Blue Jays, and then the Blue Jays had other ideas, and the Blue Jays have really always played the Astros pretty tough, so I hope they don't get back in the playoff picture, because they're a team that can kind of, their bats, they're just kind of, when they're on, they can really control it. But I don't think this team has so much desire to win. I don't think that they're going to just get a big head and then just kind of play down to the opponent. They're still playing game to game, even though they've got this big lead. They're still going game to game.
Yeah, I think the fact that they have a team that has a lot of players that have been there, they have some guys that have been to the top of the sport, for that matter, as well, that can lend that kind of expertise to a lot of the younger guys. I think it's going to carry this team forward. I'm really interested to see where this team goes in the second half of the year as far as their trajectory. I mean, it looks like right now they're on pace to come close to the most wins by a team in a regular season, which was 116 by Seattle back in 2000. It looks like they could have come close to that. I don't think that's something that they're really worried about at this point in the year. Certainly not worried about it now, or certainly when we get to the end of the year. It's really about getting themselves at this point healthy, number one, healthy, and then two, getting themselves in position to make a big run in the postseason when they get there.
Yeah, that's what Buster Only told me. He said that most times people make trades is to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And the Astros are not in that situation unless they go on a losing streak. They're pretty much already in. They're facing the same situation the Cubs did last year. What do they do at the trade deadline? Do they go in and give up a big part of their future to prepare for it, or do they just go with what they have? So the next few weeks will decide what happens.
Yeah, it'll be huge in determining what they do. Eric Huysman, who is, again, folks, a host of Talking Stros on Sports Talk 790 down in Houston. He also writes for Fansided. Eric, it's been a pleasure. Before we let you go, just tell us what else you guys got coming up on your show on Sports Talk 790. What you guys coming up on the schedule?
We just broadcast right after the 10th inning show on 790 every Sunday. Mm-hmm. And it's an hour for now, and hopefully we can renew it for the off season because that's really our biggest time. We have so many connections to a lot of the players, and that's the time we get them on the show. But it's really fun to continue the baseball talk, especially after a win.
Who's been like the best interview so far that you guys have had?
Honestly, probably Billy Wagner. We've had him on twice, and hearing the stories about him and Bagwell, and Bagwell was the one that gave him the idea for Enter the Sandman, and just hearing him talk about how Bagwell needs to be in the Hall of Fame, and then talking about how he's probably never that Billy Wagner is probably never going to get in the Hall of Fame just because people don't view closers as that valuable, and so but. Wagner he kind of gave me the idea that these players really do care if they get into the Hall of Fame or not, because Wagner's very vocal about it. If you call him, he'll give you all his stats right off top of his head, and but he had nothing but good things to say about Bagwell, and he even told us a few funny stories and stuff. So he was a good person to talk to, and he said when I asked him who was his least favorite player to face, he said David Eckstein, just because he would always just foul off every pitch and then finally get a weak single out there. But we've had several good players. I think Jake Marisnick this offseason was pretty good. But it's been an awesome experience to get to know some of these players through this experience.
Have you had an opportunity to speak to the manager, A.J. Hinch, at all, or even a guy like a Dallas Keuchel? Have you had that opportunity yet?
Yes, I did. I kind of begged right before Christmas. I said, all I want for Christmas is for A.J. Hinch to join the show, and I added him. And so he replied to the media manager and said, "Hey, Steve, we got 25 days to make his dream come true." And so I think it was right after New Year's. I think I did get to interview him. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was pretty awesome, and we got to kind of hear what his plans were for Gaddis, because at that time we were thinking, where's Gaddis's bats going to come from, who's going to play the outfield, and so it was just good to really be able to talk to him, and he enjoyed it, and he even at a Astros fan forum, he actually remembered me and mentioned how he came on my show. So, it's a good experience to get to talk to the manager of any team, much less the best team in baseball.
Unbelievable. Fantastic, Eric. Again, good luck with the show for the rest of this for the rest of this season. Obviously, I'd like to have you back on very soon. Obviously, to talk about this team as we move along into the second half of the year and start looking towards the postseason. Tremendous run for the first half of the year, and it looks like Houston could be on the way to doing something very special this year. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping for that parade, but we're just taking one game at a time, and no matter how high we are above the other team in AL West, we're just going to play Astros baseball, and that's what this team does. And they play with their hearts, and it all stems from Mr. George Springer.
Absolutely. Eric Huysman of, again, Sports Talk 790 down in Houston and FanSided. Eric, thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks for having me.
Always a great interview to have Eric on, talk about Houston Astros. And the second time we've had him on, at the end of spring training to talk about the Astros as they were getting ready for the season. At the time, the expectations for the Astros were high. They were expected to be a competitive team, expected to be right up there at the top of the division. We were talking about this at the time with Texas. But they have just gone beyond that. They have just dominated this division, 15.5 games ahead of this division over the Angels, well on their way to that title there. And the question is going to be, is it going to be health? It's going to be their ability to stay on the up and up and stay focused throughout the second half of the year at 58-28 and get themselves in position to make a run in the postseason. And when we get to the postseason, that's the discussion for another show about where this team's going to stack up against what will be good competition coming out of the East and the Central. The Red Sox, Yankees, Royals, Twins, Indians, all very competitive, beating up on each other right now in those divisions. And the Astros will have to deal with at least a couple of them if they have any dreams and chances of getting to a World Series this year in 2017. So, again, we want to thank Eric Huysman for coming on, talking to us today. And, folks, that will wrap it up here on a Friday night for you here on the Open Mic program. Want to thank you all for tuning in and listening. Remember to follow us on the social media at Open Mic NJ on Twitter. That's at Open Mic NJ on Twitter. Also on the Facebook page as well. Let me just pull up my Twitter here. Just want to get Eric Astros Twitter up here. Just want to get that shared with you as well. But you can follow us on the Facebook page, on the Open Mic program on Facebook, and also on Sports Talk Nation. These shows will be on the YouTube channel. We've had a great response on YouTube with the program. So we very encourage you to follow us there, and eventually we'll be making our permanent move to YouTube. We know we do the kind of simulcast between Blog Talk Radio and the YouTube. Soon we'll just change it right to the YouTube. But you can follow us there on Sports Talk Nation on YouTube. As far as Talking Stros, follow them on Twitter at Talking Stros today as well. And that's, of course, the show that Eric Huysman hosts, as he will be. He does that every Sunday down there in Houston on 790 Sports Talk 790. So, folks, thank you all for tuning in and listening, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the one and only Open Mic program.